Hey, what's up? This is the boss here, and my name is the chosen one, Lance Tucker. And I just want to say we're hanging out with Johnny's Garage. That's right, baby.
I'm Alistair Crow, and this is Johnny's Garage.
All right, we live here on Johnny's Garage.
All right, welcome to the garage, y'all. It's been a long time. Having some fun. Got together with my man El Satanico here.
Oh man, it's been a while. I don't even know where to go from here. Usually we would have sat in the back and said, "What are we going to do to start this?"
That's about it. What we're gonna do to start it, but
everybody always says the wrestling is choreographed. The only thing I ever knew was a beginning and an end. Anything in the middle, I played the crowd. I ain't like these guys today.
I have to say that we did know the beginning and the end a lot of times, but then there were a lot of times that we didn't know the beginning and the end. And speaking on my behalf, a lot of those guys might have thought they knew what were going to happen, but didn't quite end up the way they thought.
Well, I remember quite a few times where we started off just say I'm a heel and he was a baby, or I was a baby, he was a heel, and the end of the match was something else.
Yes, absolutely. That was just a little anecdote, real fast. Me and Pretty Boy Floyd over in Atlanta, and he thought he was a baby face, and I'm looking at him. I'm going, no, I'm the face, man. And he said, no way, man, you're Deathrow. You're the bad guy extraordinaire. So we go out there. I said, look, we'll call it on the audience. Whoever the audience goes for, that's the baby face. We did a 4-corner ring around. We get to the 4th turnbuckle. He looks at me and goes, yep, you're the face. Yours.
I remember a lot of places that happened to you. You were the heel, but got cheered
all the time. It was crazy, but the people loved to hate me, and I think that was one of my favorite things.
One of these days, we'll have to tell the cornbread story.
Yeah. Oh my God. Oh yeah. So I think what we're doing is we're setting this up in a way that on Johnny's Garage, what people don't understand is where we trained in the garage, everything was real. There wasn't any setup. We weren't allowed to talk. We were not allowed to set matches up. And so we really had to be able to wrestle for real in order to do what we were doing. And then when we get into doing shows, we found out, or I did, and I know you did, something that I preached to the young guys towards the end of my career is it has to be real. They didn't understand how real wrestling had to be. And I don't think that people really understand how real wrestling is. And so we're going to talk about the real side of wrestling and the things that happen, whenever we're out there doing what we do.
Well, you talk about Johnny's Garage. What was Johnny's famous thing about the ropes? He says they're there to keep you from falling off, not to throw somebody into.
Oh, yeah. With Johnny, everything happened in the middle of the ring.
Exactly. That's why that ring was wore to pieces.
Well, there was 2 reasons for that. I found out he had a new canvas in the back, folded up in the cabinet, and the old canvas was tore to shreds. And I said, Johnny, why don't we put the new canvas on there? And he said, because you haven't learned how to pick up your feet. He said, when you learn how to pick up your feet, we'll put the new canvas on the ring. And so he left it tore up to teach us how to pick up our feet.
I was going to say I was up there for many years and never saw a new canvas.
Well, actually, you did. We put the new canvas on, and then it got tore up, and we never fixed it. Actually, the new canvas got wore out, and then unfortunately, Johnny's garage went away before we got another new canvas.
It was there for many years though, and I don't even want to know how many years that canvas was on. I got, I got a couple pieces of the canvas, and I'm going to keep that away from any DNA testing.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, man. So you got the vinyl canvas, right? The vinyl
Right.
one that was on there. All right. So I'll promise you, you remember the other one. He had an old Army canvas that we stretched across it.
Okay.
The green one.
Yeah. Yeah, I do remember that now.
And that was the new canvas. And you also remember what happened there. It was wore completely out. And we had to take it back off the ring because it was in such bad shape that we went back to the vinyl canvas that was so tore up.
I think the only things that never got tore up was right under the ropes. That was it.
That was it. Yeah. Because how many times have we rebuilt that ring? You know,
I still think one of the funniest ones is I walked in there and I keep hearing beat, and I'm looking for you, and I see you crawling out with hammers and 2x4 saying, I had to fix it and brace it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I literally found some steel angle iron and went in and reinforced that ring because working out with Ogre and both of us being as big as we were, both of us being as big as we were, we broke the ring, broke it right down in the middle, and I had to go in and put steel reinforcements in there to put it back together. So I guess this would be a good time to explain to people what Johnny's ring was. Johnny's ring was an old boxing ring, and it was made out of 2x12 solid oak wood. And it was run on 2-foot centers with solid oak. And on top of that was 2 layers of 3/4 inch plywood. And then there was a piece of carpet on top of that, and then a canvas stretched out. So when people talk about how soft the rings are, now they're made to do this, made to do that. No, not in Johnny's, not where we trained. It was as hard as a concrete floor. And the ring didn't bounce. You did.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
if you remember, everybody that trained at Johnny's ring, their next show, they was out taking the bumps on the concrete and said it felt better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to throw a shout out to Alan Martin. Way back early in my career. Oh, God. Y'all, technical difficulty. Y'all, hold on. Technical difficulty.
Oh, well, this is making the blooper reel.
Okay, yes, it's going to make the blooper. We're going to, my light keeps shutting itself off for some reason.
You got good lighting. Don't worry about it.
So, way back at the beginning of my career, I'm in the locker room with Alan Martin, and he does the customary, what most of us did was, who trained you? And I said, Johnny. And he shudders, makes his face, and he goes, oh man, you trained in that hard ring? And I said, yeah, I did. He said, well, he says, you can wrestle anywhere. And he was right. I could wrestle anywhere. It was concrete floor, gravel parking lot, taking bumps on gravel. That never bothered me. You know, well, it was fun.
That kind of goes along, everybody that's ever been around Johnny, the time when you wrestled Larry Zbyszko and he says, who trained you? And that, he walked in the door and you said, that man right there. And Zbyszko said, well, we ain't doing none of that shit he does.
Yeah, well, his exact quotes for Coach words is, tonight, you can forget that shit.
What, I know we had another story planned out, but speaking of Zbyszko, it was funny because I was actually in the crowd, back toward the locker room watching the match that you guys had. It was in the Doster in Prattville, Alabama, if anybody knows where that is. And you guys were sitting there, opponents. You're the heel, he's the baby face. And you guys were sitting on the edge of the ring ropes. You had the crowd so riled. You're there talking to Larry Zbyszko next to him, watching the crowd fighting.
Yes, absolutely. Look, this is one that we need to get Ogre in on whenever to bring this back up with Ogre, because he was actually working security in the building that night.
Yes.
And they had to kick a lot of the audience out of the building because they were out there fighting over who they liked best, me or Larry Zabisco. And it was the whole story is Pennsylvania Pete, our dear friend Pete, calls me up and he says, if there's one person that you could wrestle against, who would it be? And me being trained by Johnny and being a hooker, I knew that Larry Zabisco was a hooker. So I asked for Larry. I wanted to wrestle another hooker. And so they bring Larry in, and of course you already said it. He finds out I'm trained by Johnny, and he didn't want nothing to do with that. Now I told you what Larry's words were. Let me tell you the other words he had. After he tells me to forget it, that we're not doing that tonight, he looks me right in the eye and he says, that old man used to terrorize me back in the day. Said he would beat the hell out of us. And he told me, said, tonight is a personal appearance for me and it's a night off for you. And I did not know how much he meant that until we got to the ring. So when we get out there, Larry is telling Murray, the referee, to check me, check all my zippers, check all my pockets. And they start doing the Zabisco chant in the audience. And when the Zabisco chant fires up, then the other half of the audience starts up a Deathrow chant. And now we've got them going back and forth on each other. And then next thing you know, these guys are out there killing each other. They're swinging chairs. They're beating the hell out of each other. And I never forget, because I'm standing at the ropes watching. Murray's standing in the middle and Larry's standing on the other side of Murray. He looks around Murray and he goes, hey, kid, you want to send the ref to get some popcorn? So we watch them fight, and we have to watch them break the fight up, and then they get everything broke up. And then I turn to Larry to start the match. And when I make a step towards him, he runs and slides out of the ring. And I run out behind him. I'm chasing him around the ring. We made 2 or 3 laps. And he grabs a chair out from under the timekeeper, turns around and runs at me. I instinctively follow along. I turn around and I run from him. I make 1 lap. And I go, what am I doing? I'm not scared of a chair. Deathrow's never been scared to get hit. So I turn back around and go back at him. He throws the chair at me. I catch it, and he slides in the ring. As I slide in behind him, he stands up and staggers back to the ropes. And I knew immediately that was the finish for the match. We hadn't set anything up. There was nothing set up going out the door. But when he did the curly shuffle to the ropes, I knew that I was fixing to knock myself out with a chair. And I come in with everything I had, he ducks, I hit the ropes, knocked myself down. The only time we touched in that whole match was when he pinned me for the 3 count. And as soon as 3 fell, he slides out of the ring and runs to the locker room. And that was our whole match.
Well, and the thing is y'all did a 20-minute match, and the match was 2 minutes long. The fight outside was about 15 or more.
Yeah.
But the other thing, if you remember this, I remember Zabisco saying, what? This building ain't got a shower? I ain't doing shit tonight.
Yeah. I mean, Larry was fun. And trust me, if I wished I would have done more with Larry. He was a very smart wrestler. He was very good, knew how to entertain an audience. I was disappointed because I really wanted to get my teeth in on a hooker and swap skills. But I was not disappointed in the outcome of that match. Well, we got a standing ovation coming out of the match. I mean, we did good.
You were in a master class right there and didn't realize it.
I was in a master class on the workmanship of wrestling. You're right. You're absolutely right. That was showmanship, 100%.
And everybody says wrestling, you have to control the audience, and that I was even getting into it because I'm watching the crowd fight and I'm like, when are they going to start this match?
Hey man, it was that was phenomenal. It was really enjoyable for me. It's a memory that I have forever with wrestling. One of the greats to ever get in the wrestling ring, and and so me and you both know that a lot of times when you got in there with superstars,
Yes.
people that were bigger than stars, they didn't treat you good, and they would make you look bad to make themselves look good. I'm in there with Larry Zbyszko, a legend in the business. He's trained by Bruno Sammartino. He is a full blown hooker, and he has earned his stripes in every way he could in wrestling. And he treated me as an equal. He put my strength over, is what he did, and made me bigger and better in front of my crowd. Right. And so I won't never forget him for that.
No, that he put you over to the fullest, and with his legendary status, he was over already, and he brought you to his level.
Absolutely.
I'm envious you got to do that one, because I'd have loved to have been in that match.
Oh, well, you've had some good ones over the years, man. You have. I've seen you in some real good ones.
Yeah, but you got to work with Larry Zbyszko. I've got to work with the Armstrongs, Marty Jannetty. I mean, the Terry Gordy. But like you said,
a good one.
His status of who he was and what he did.
Mentioning Terry Gordy, his birthday was last week, so give a shout out to Terry Gordy for a birthday. Wished he was here for us to celebrate it. But you and I both,
story in itself.
I know you and I both have wrestled against Terry, and both of us have been on the road with Terry, and we know how much fun it was and how good it was to be around Terry. Let me think about who I think my favorite superstar that you ever wrestled was. I'm trying to think. I mean, Marty Jannetty, sure enough, me and you both wrestled him. He was definitely a lot of fun in wrestling ring. Marty was all business when the bell rung, and people need to know that about Marty. He was wide open outside the ring, but in the ring, he was all business. Let's think about this, man. Who was your favorite ever superstar that you wrestled?
I've been in there with a lot of them, and I guess the favorite person I've ever been in the ring against and I have to go because he was a childhood hero, which was Bob Armstrong.
Absolutely. That's a great answer.
He was a child. Yeah, I've been in there with, like I say, the Terry Gordys, the Marty Jannettys. I've been in there, people from WCW, WWF people.
Yeah.
And Bob, I guess, because to me, he was larger than life. Now, the locker room is a different story. I got a lot more fun in the locker room with a lot of different people.
Well, I can agree with you on that. Bob was special to wrestle with.
Yes.
Because this man had all those years of knowledge. He had all this stuff going on. And nobody could turn a crowd like Bob could. Bob could turn them on like nobody's business. And it's just to be in there with him. And one thing I can always say about Bob is he would always impart wisdom on you while you were with him. And he was so gentle in the locker room, so quiet, and then when you get out there, he turn around and hit you.
I still remember when he told me, "Don't move," and I moved.
Yeah. I mean, he would put it on you, but that's what we're talking about here is the real side of wrestling. People don't understand that we had to get hit. We had to hit people. We didn't like I watch what's going on now with these young guys, and they don't hit each other. We always hit each other. We had to hit each other. That was what wrestling was. You know,
Exactly.
you had to be willing to get hit, and you had to be willing to hit somebody. And you know, so yeah, I hope that as we tell these stories and go down the line on what the real of what we did is, and so people can get a better understanding, and especially a lot of people we wrestled with, right? So I was always known for being really, really hard. It was a long night when people had to get in the ring with me, and it took me,
I'll agree.
yeah, it took me not wrestling anymore before I realized how hard I really was. So I want everybody out there to know if you had to wrestle me and you feel like I was trying to mess you up, just go ahead and know I wasn't. That's just the way I worked.
Well,
And
that's the way you were trained too.
that's the way I was trained. And just know that I never ever hit anybody harder than I wanted to get hit.
Right.
But I meant to hit you. I mean, I really did. I was giving the audience what they were paying for, and that was my whole. I wanted personally for to hear somebody in the audience look up and go, "This is supposed to be fake." I want them to look at what I'm doing and go, "This is supposed to be fake." And I wanted to hear that every time I got in a wrestling ring. I wanted them to second guess it and go, "My God, these guys are fighting for real." I wanted to hear that, and I tried my best to get it in every match. I tried to sell my audience, and in order to do that, I did it for real, and that's how I did it. I would really hit them. I'd catch them in a hold. I mean, nobody knows better than my friend El Satanico over there how hard I would hit, and if I grabbed you in a hold, how I would hold.
But you also know that between me and you, we were a lot rougher with each other than we were with other people. We would hit to make contact, but between me and you, we went out to have fun.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I know.
we enjoyed the show ourselves, along with making the other people believe that it was real.
Absolutely, and that what you and I have a long history, a very long history, which we will be tapping into on some of these talks.
Well, I know our first injury was you went to shoot me off. I popped up so quick I broke your nose.
Yeah.
After that, you whipped me out and into the turnbuckle quicker than I expected, and I dislocated my shoulder.
Yep.
You know.
That was at the Wetumpka National Guard Armory.
Yes, it was.
And, yep.
And the next statement was, "Oh no, here comes Pete."
Yeah. And I think he put your shoulder back in for you.
Yes, he did. He put my shoulder back in.
And not nicely, no.
And anybody that knows Pete and sees that sweet 160, 180 pound guy right now did know the 400-pound man to hit you.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, man. Seventh wonder of the world. We could do a whole show on Pete, man. Oh my God, we could do a whole show on Pete. And well, especially if we're talking about the real in wrestling, people just have to understand there was not a fake bone in Pete's body. That son of a gun.
I can tell you, I put videos of him on the page from 1981, and I know how real he was because he was real cheap because he had the same pair of boots and same tights and same knee pads all the way.
Oh yeah, so they still got him in his bag today. Yes,
he does.
Yes. Oh man, that is crazy. We're dropping a lot of names and stuff, and we got a little stories in here. You're talking about Bob Armstrong. I really enjoyed Bob. I'm gonna throw a little anecdote in here, or a little story from Bob on his 62nd birthday. And so you and I would tag against Armstrongs all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, especially over in Georgetown. We did a lot of tagging.
Yes.
And every time I would get into the wrestling ring, Bob would get out. And I'm watching every time I go in, Bob gets out. And then whenever they would make the hot tag, of course, we'd both feed up for him because, I mean, it's Bob. He's a legend. We're going to do the right thing for him. But anytime it came down to working, Bob wouldn't work me.
No.
And that really bothered me, right? So we were in Defuniak Springs, Florida, and Bob's there, and I sit down and I talk to Bob, and I go, Bob, I said, I know that you've been in this business a long time. I said, I've been in it close to 10 years now, and I know how bad it hurts me when I get out of bed in the mornings. I know how bad it hurts. I couldn't imagine how bad it hurts you to do this every day like you do. And I said, but I just want you to know, I'll never take a cheap shot on you, Bob. I'm not going to cheap shot you. I'm not going to try to hurt you. You know, so basically I'm telling him, you know, or asking him why I want you to get in the ring with me. And Bob looks at me and says, son, that's not why I don't get in the wrestling ring with you. He said, that's not it at all. He said, you are too big and too strong, and you have nothing to gain from being in a ring with me. So I'm an old broke down man. And you're coming up. And he says, so I'm trying to let you climb. You know, so that was the answer I wasn't expecting. That humbled me a lot.
That was
because,
Bob knowledge.
Yeah, there it is, you know. And that's why he would always put me in there with Scott or Steve, you know, to do what we were doing. And so being humbled like that, Bob looks at me and he goes, well, you know what, son, today is my 62nd birthday. And I said, well, happy birthday, Bob. He said, why don't me and you give them 5 minutes tonight? He said, you go find a couple of people to tag with. I've got Scott and Steve here, and let's do 5 minutes and then turn it to a 6-man. I said, all right. So I went and scrounged some people up to be my tag partners. And so me and Bob get in there to start off 5 minutes. Well, a couple of things happened that night that were very remarkable. One was, if anybody that knows me or knows my career at all, when I first started in the business and wrestling, first started doing shows, I would not talk to an audience. I would go out there and do my part and come back to the locker room, and I never got on a microphone, ever. And Bob, before we go out for a match, looks at me and he goes, son, that crowd's as dead as a nail out there. He said, I need you to grab the stick and liven them up. And how can I tell him no? I can't say, Bob, I can't do that. So now I've got to go talk on the microphone. And go out to the ring. I get the microphone. I'm in the ring. I'm looking at my audience. I'm starting to get my heat because of the way I would look at them and things I would do. I pick the microphone up to my mouth, and there's nothing there. I have no words. I can't find them. And instead of getting upset, I just pulled the microphone back down, shake my head at that side of the audience. I turned to the next side of the audience. And again, I picked the microphone up, and there's nothing there. I have no words. I set the microphone back down, and I turned to the third side of the audience. And again, I try to say something. I have no words, and I'm getting really, really panicky inside my own head. But I can't let the audience know. And so I turned to the fourth side of the ring.
You're on the fourth side.
All right, so the building entranceway is there. So where the doors where the audience walked in. And to either side of the entranceway, there are 2 signs on the wall. And one sign said gentlemen. And on the other side, it said ladies. And everything clicked right then. I picked the microphone up and I go, I hope none of you women out here need to use the bathroom tonight, because that sign on the wall says ladies. And we all know there are no ladies in Defuniak Springs, Florida. And boom, the place went crazy, right? So then I start talking about Bob. Y'all go on and pat Bob on the back, shake his hand, give him a kiss on the cheek, because once he comes out tonight, it's the last time you will ever see him. And so Bob makes his entrance, of course, place goes crazy. And I have to say, the place was packed. It was as full of people as it could get. They had tables lined up on the walls, and the tables were even sold out. People were sitting at the tables. There were no more chairs, and we've seen this plenty of times. The stairs were full all the way to the top, right? So we're in a sold out armory, which would put it right around 500 people. And so Bob makes his entrance to the ring, and we went. I went on Bob just like he asked me to. I got in on him right off the bat. As soon as he entered the ring, I Pearl Harbored him. I body slammed him a couple of times, ragdolled him a little bit, and just to set it up. And then Bob starts making his shine, getting looking good at the beginning of the match. And then so we get through the shine. I turn around and give him a big bump to set it up, and then he comes up and puts me in a sleeper hold. He catches me in the sleeper. I just simply reach up there and shrug that sleeper off and step out, and I show my muscles and show everybody, how strong I am. He runs up and puts me in another sleeper. When he hooks me in that one, I take off backpedaling, bust him into a turnbuckle, knock him off that way, and then step out, and I show everybody how smart I am. He runs up and puts me in another sleeper. When he gets me in the third one, I shrug it off and I turn around with a haymaker. I'm giving it everything I got. And when I come around, I hit Bob so hard I thought I knocked his damn head off. I hit him so hard that instead of falling down, he corkscrewed. And he went to, man, he's laying there. And his eyes are open, but you can't see his eyes are rolled up in the back of his head, and he is out cold. And I'm looking and I said, oh man, I just knocked Bob out. And so I look up and I see Scott and Steve standing in the wings, ready to run in. And Bob is out cold, and I grabbed the referee and I said, go get something to wake Bob up. And he looks at Bob and he looks at me and said, what'd you do? I said, I knocked him out. And so I dive out of the ring and I go to the first drink cup I see in the audience. And I snatch it out of their hand and I run back over, slide back in the ring, and I douse Bob in the face with it. And he comes to, and I fight him up and get him back up, and we work back around in a circle. Now, this is professionalism, y'all. This is true professionalism. We work around in a big circle, and we go back to the third sleeper hold. And I work into it to where he gets me in it. I shrug it off again, come around with everything I got. He ducks, catches me in the sleeper hold again, and this is the cue for the boys to run in. I go down on one knee. Well, I go down on the knee. I got my guys running in to jump Bob. Bob's in my ear, and he goes, I won't forget to duck next time. And so my boys run in. Scott and Steve run in. We make it a 6-man. Beautiful match. The audience was none the wiser. They didn't know what was going on. But that was happy birthday, Bob. I knocked him flat out on his 62nd birthday.
That wasn't the first time Bob went to sleep during a match.
I know. What, remember the hot dog night? Remember the hot dog night?
Yeah, and I remember watching him in Columbus. It was him and Scott tagging versus Tommy Stevenson and Billy Black. And they had Scott down, and they said, somebody go wake up Dad for the hot tag.
Yeah. No, you remember the night they come to us? We were working Scott and Bob over in Georgetown.
Yep.
And they come, and the referee comes over and says, y'all stretch this match out. They just run out of food in the concession. They're going to get hot dogs now.
Yes.
And we had to work the match till they got back from the store. And Bob had fell asleep on the ropes that night.
I think that was the night my ex was working in there along with Pete's. No, it wasn't Pete then. Who was it working? Because that was with WPW.
That was with WPW. You sure it wasn't B?
It might have been B. It might have been B and Tina.
I think it was B and Tina because Ken was with us the whole time we were over
Right.
there. Yeah, so I think it was B and Tina, and but I'll never forget them coming telling us we had to keep going until they got back from the store, and we're wrestling and watching the door. And as soon as the guy come in with grocery bags, Scott did the same thing. Go wake Dad up. It's time for the hot tag. and, and we had left Bob out there for so long, you know. Oh man.
The only night I have ever seen Bob go forever was in Prattville at that, what was it, a arena for animals or something when we was running with Robert? When Robert ran
that was actually in Otagoville. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah, in Otagoville at the horse arena. Yeah.
And Bob was wrestling Jimmy Golden. And about 15 to 20 minutes into the match, Scott goes, "Is Dad still out there?" "Well, yeah, he's still out there." He goes and looks, he says, "I'll be damned, he is still out there." He did like 25 minutes with Jimmy Golden.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's a whole nother night there too, talking about Jimmy. My
Yes.
God.
Well, tell you what, I told you I had a surprise for you.
All right. What you got?
All right. Now, we know getting into your wrestling career, you had a lot of other things going on, right?
Yeah.
I want you to explain this.
That's downtown Montgomery.
There's a whole side to Death Row that nobody knows about.
Yeah, that was downtown Montgomery and the pyramids. Unfortunately, the pyramids aren't there anymore. They've been destroyed. But yes, I was an avid skateboarder. I loved the skateboard. I was too big to do it, but I did it anyway. And which will explain a lot to a lot of you people why I was so quick on my feet. And and why I was so fast. Yeah. But yeah, that was me, and the guy that took that picture, his name is Shaggy. And Shaggy is the official photographer for Alabama State University now. He's a wonderful human being, good person. And he's like 5 years older than me, and he still skates. He's got a half pipe in his backyard. But yeah, those were the days back then, man.
What we got to talk about is them shorts, though.
It was the 80s, bro. That was the 80s. All right, that's the way you dressed in the 80s.
Told you I was going to throw a curveball at you tonight.
Hey, that's fine. That's fine. I was proud of my skateboarding too.
Well, tell you what, one of these days we're going to get together and tell how you skated with what's the guy's name? My mind just went blank.
Yeah, I know you're talking about
Tony Hawk.
Yeah. My favorite that I ever got to skate with was Mark Gonzalez. He was my favorite. But yeah, I got to skate with a lot of those guys, and it was fun. Yeah.
All right.
Those were good old days, man.
They were.
My adventure, my first big adventure before I got into this adventure called wrestling.
And I wish you could have done 30 years in skating. Probably been less on your body.
I don't know. I don't know, man. Yeah, wiping out at 50 miles an hour is a little different. That asphalt was unforgiving.
Feet land on you night after night's a little different too.
Oh man, no, you're right about that, especially after you bounced.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you for sitting here and listening to us have our first garage night. And we're going to try to do some more. I'll be getting in touch with a lot of people about doing some time in the garage and just giving some good old stories, road stories, or whatever you want to talk about. I know we got people here that do music. We got people that do a lot of other stuff on the side of wrestling. And, we can talk about whatever you want.
Hey, if y'all are watching this, I want you to understand this is a platform for all of us. And we definitely want participation from everybody. Everybody has their own ride through wrestling. I know how mine was. Most of my ride happened with this man that I'm talking to right here with Bogey, but everybody had their own individual thing go on, and we want to hear the real side of wrestling. We want to hear what made it real to you and what you had to do. And so, please get up with Bogey and let's get this out there and on the page for everybody to enjoy.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back.